So this is 8 treasure rice, and it's called that because for Chinese New Year it's very important we have like the best that we can have. It's the first day of the year. We have the best, and the idea is then we will have the best for the rest of the year. So, and also the food that we eat around Chinese New Year is very symbolic. So everything has some kind of like a meaning, and you also have to remember in China, wherever it is, in the old days, I mean, it's end of winter, beginning of spring, so there's not really a lot of fresh things growing around. In the autumn, people would have killed their, would have sort of like slaughtered their farm animals and make preserves and things. So we very much have like dried ingredients that are safe from autumn for Chinese New Year. We have usually much more expensive things than what I'm showing here, but just to keep things simple so that everybody can make this here in London. So we have glutinous rice, 300 grams, shiitake mushrooms. You have to use the dry one, not the fresh ones, because the fresh ones will fall apart when you cook it. So you need to use the dry ones, which will stay together a bit more. Dried prawns, Chinese sausage, Chinese bacon, lotus seed, which is also dried, but you can in the shops nowadays you can actually get fresh ones, so I'm going to use the fresh ones. Pumpkin, which symbolizes sort of like gold, pieces of gold, you know. And you can just cut it into small pieces, but you know, it's a special occasion, so I've made nice patterns with it. Some carrots, some baby corn, red beans, shallots, garlic, oil, and 1 teaspoon of five spice and 1 stock cube. We're only going to use half of that. The glutinous rice I have soaked overnight, preferably overnight. You can, like, if you forget to do it overnight, 4 hours is okay. So what we're gonna do is strain this. Okay, the mushrooms, the dried mushrooms and the dried prawns, we can soak them together in 300 milliliters of water. Okay, so I'm going to remove the mushrooms because we're going to cut them up. So again, we're going to remove the dried prawns, then you know, from the soaking water, but don't throw away the water because we're going to use this. Add your stock cube to this water. We're just going to use half. Put that aside for now. The shallots I have sliced. The garlic and spring onions, I've just like chopped them up quite small. You should wash the meat in a little bit of hot water just to get rid of some of the kind of surface oil. But what's also very important is you need to kind of give this sausage a little bit of a soak, because you can see it changes color, and we need to remove the skin from the sausage. I mean, you know, if you want to skip this step, it's okay, you can do that too, but I like it like that. From the sausage, we're gonna do some nice slices because we're gonna decorate the rice with this. The bits that are not so nice, we can chop them up and put it aside. And the same for the bacon. We're gonna cut some nice slices. And then the rest we can just sort of chop up quite kind of roughly to go into the rice itself. Okay, keep the kind of offcuts, the bit that you chopped up separately. Now the mushrooms, I've done a little pattern because I'm going to put it into the bowl to make it look pretty. So basically what you do with that, you need to cut off this stem in the that's quite hard. Even when you cook it, it will remain quite hard. So basically we're just going to do a little crisscross. If you want to be more fancy, you can. Now keep these little bits. Okay, there you go. Chop up half of them, which will go into the rice. Now the lotus seed, these are dried ones. If you're going to use the dry ones, you just need to soak them overnight, like with the, the same as the rice. What's important for the lotus seed, you need to break them open, because you will find sometimes in the middle, you find a little, I don't know if you can see, a little green bit. You need to remove that, because that's bitter if you keep it in. Okay. The sweet corn, I've kept some whole and I've kept some round. You'll see in a minute what I'm doing with those, just to make it look pretty. The same with the carrot, I've cut them up very pretty, and the same with the pumpkin, because I'm going to decorate the outside of the rice with this. Shallots, you just slice them. Spring onion, garlic. Chestnuts, some of them are quite big, so just break them up, break them up a little bit. But I love chestnuts, so I don't mind having big bits in it. Okay, so that's the end of the preparation of the ingredients. Heat up the oil, the 2 tablespoons. You can add a little bit less if you want, because the meat will also have some oil come out of it. First thing to do is we want to brown the shallots. So this is going to take a little, like maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get brown. This step is very important, so take your time, because basically what we want to do is brown the onions so that it's really golden, and it will give a nice flavor to the rice. Don't walk away, especially at this stage, because it can go from this to burning very quickly. Having said that, this is taking a very long time. Well, we are getting there. Try and get the oil out. And just put it aside for now. Add your dry prawns to the oil. And all the little offcuts of the bacon and sausage. Your mushrooms, again, the bits that you cut up, keeping the nice bits for decoration. Give it a little stir. You want it to kind of get quite fragrant. Now add the garlic and spring onions. You can see the little bits of garlic. Basically, you just want to cook the rawness out of it. It doesn't need to be brown or anything. I can smell it's really fragrant. You're going to add the rice that is soaked and drained. Give it a good stir to mix it with the oil. Be very gentle when you stir the rice, because you don't want to break it up. So once you see it's all coated nicely with the oil, this is the liquid that had the stock cube that previously we used for soaking the mushrooms and the prawns. We're going to add about 1/3. And again, very gently, we're just folding it in. Basically, we want to get the rice to absorb the liquid. We don't want to break up the rice. You can see the water has been absorbed. Add a little bit more, another 1/3. Okay, see, the liquid is gone again. So we're going to add the rest. We don't want it to be mushy or broken up. We want to try and keep the rice grains whole as much as possible. I'm stirring it around quite a bit because there's a lot of starch in the liquid, and it will stick to the pan and burn quite easily. And make sure you are stirring from the bottom up. Okay, so most of the liquid has been absorbed. We're going to add the 5 spice. Make sure you get the spice evenly distributed in the rice. Add some salt to taste, taste your food. Not much salt in there. And black pepper. I quite like black pepper, quite a lot of it, but you add what you like. You can actually turn the heat off at this stage, because it's very hot. It will still carry on absorbing the liquid. But as you can see, most of the liquid's gone. You're going to add the brown onions into the mix. So this is done. at this stage I'm in. Here you can decide to put the rest of the ingredients in all together and sort of stir it up and then cook it like, no, sometimes people cook it in lotus leaf, or you can just steam it in a pan or in a bowl. But because it's Chinese New Year, we're going to do something a little bit more special. We're going to make it a little bit more special. So I'm not going to put those in. I'm just going to decorate the bowl and then put the rice in around it. Okay, but make sure you cool the rice down first so that it's safe to handle, because you do need to handle the rice quite a bit. I've transferred the rice into a bowl to cool a little bit, but you do still need to kind of give it a stir every now and then so that it doesn't stick together. It is sticky rice after all. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add the beans and also the bits of pumpkin that I have cut up I mean, and maybe half of the lotus seed. I'm going to mix it into the rice. Be gentle with the rice so that you don't break them up. I happen to have this really nice bowl, so I'm going to use this, but you can just use an ordinary glass bowl. And actually, in fact, better to use this because you can actually see what you're doing, which you will understand in a minute. We're just going to oil this a little bit so that we can turn it out easily. So what I'm going to do is up to you really. I'm going to use a nice mushroom. I'm going to put that in the center. And then, you know, think about colors and stuff like that when you're doing it. You want a nice pattern when you turn it out. So, because the mushroom is black, I'm going to put something kind of whitish around it to kind of make sure it stands out. I might put some pumpkin leaf. It's entirely up to you how you want to do this. You need to put some rice on it as you go along, just to hold everything in place. Otherwise, it will all fall apart. Okay, now I'm going to do some red because I've got orange. So I'm going to do some red. Again, some rice to kind of hold it in place. And then maybe some sweet corn. It's a different color. And then some ham. You can see this pork is quite fatty. So it's actually quite good to put this kind of towards the top. So when you're cooking it, the fat will drip into the juices of the pork, and the fat will kind of drip into the rice and make it taste even yummier. Then I'm going to put some chestnuts in this layer. So like a little treasure, you know, like when you're eating and you find something that you were not expecting to be there. Now, you can press it a little bit because it's quite, everything will hold in place now. You've got enough rice in there. It will hold in place before you do the next stage. So I'm going to put these little butterfly things that I've made in between. You know, you can press it quite hard now, and it won't come off. And more rice. I'm going to press it a little bit more to try and get more in. Okay, so that's done. So now what we need to do is to steam this so that all the raw ingredients can cook. I've done a little makeshift steamer because this fits in quite nicely in here. So you can use like an ordinary steamer that we use for making the cakes, or any steamer that you have, as long as your bowl fits into it, you know. And it needs to steam for 30 minutes. So you're going to make sure there's enough water in there to last 30 minutes, or remind yourself to refill the water. You don't need to wait for the water to boil. You can just sort of stick it in, set the timer, 30 minutes. That's it. Now make sure you turn the heat down before you open the lid so that you don't burn yourself. Get a couple of grains of rice. Make sure that it's cooked. It should be soft with a little bite, but not crunchy. If it's crunchy, it's not cooked. Okay, wish me luck. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it doesn't want to come out. There you go. Any bits that comes out, try to escape, you put it back in. Et voila. All done. Prosperity cake and 8 treasure rice for Chinese New Year. I hope you try them.